A dissident group of terrorists have taken Federation Ambassador Hawkins and his staff hostage. Tasha Yar and Lieutenant Worf set phasers to cut through. And something in the tunnels smells of Jameson. Party in the tunnels. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Denise Crosby.
Hi, hello. You guys. Jameson.
I know it.
After my Irish heart.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. I like to smell Jameson too. And today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 15, Too Short a Season. So, there's a joke behind that. Story by Michael Michaelian and teleplay by Michael Michaelian and D.C. Fontana. Directed by Rob Bowman. This was February 6th, 1988. Special thanks to Grandpa One, a.k.a. Tim Baum, for sponsoring this entire season. How you guys doing?
Yeah. Oh, mighty fine, laddie. Mighty fine.
Now you're in the Irish mode. Here we go.
Oh, top of the morning to you.
Just a wee bit of Jameson.
Didn't you notice how many times they kept saying Jameson? And they literally said something smells of Jameson in the episode. I'm like, okay, now this is not an accident. They're doing this on purpose. They're trying to get us ready for the weekend.
Yeah, right. So this is the third time I think we've seen Rob Bowman.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we liked him. So yeah, he was sort of our fave.
Do you
remember?
Do you remember anything about Mr. Bowman? I don't really know much about him other than he's still working.
Oh yeah,
amazingly.
I mean, he was young. So he had a lot of energy, a lot of charisma. You know, he spoke our language. He was just playful, you know, a lot of times, because we were a rowdy bunch, you know, we were quite cut ups, and you know, we got into a little hot water for that at one point. And there was one director that complained to Rick Berman that we were out of control and he was losing command of the set. And, you know, we got a lecture.
Wow, that much.
Rick Berman came down to the set and pulled us into Patrick's ready room and sat us all down and said, guys, I don't know what's going on here, but. And by the way, when they said action and it was time to deliver, we always were prepared, always on the mark, you know, but in between setups and stuff, we'd be, you know, like the rowdy school children that, you know, the substitute teacher can't control. And we'd just be cracking each other up.
Who was the worst?
Yeah. And so we didn't know this director. I can't remember which director it was, but you know, an older gentleman who just probably wasn't used to this kind of craziness that we were all sort of, you know, letting off steam. Believe me, it was long hours, long days. And, you know, Brent particularly and Frakes are just absolute ham bones. I mean, they're just ridiculous. They would break into Broadway show tunes and, you know, shuffle around, and Jonathan would yell very loudly and, you know, just ridiculous, stupid stuff. So, yeah.
That's what Michael Dorn keeps talking about.
Yeah. Rob could flow with it. You know, he was game and didn't have a problem with any of it. And we just liked him.
Cool. Yeah, because Michael Dorn always brings that up. He's like, "Yeah, Next Generation had a lot of fun, but Deep Space Nine, you guys were serious."
Yeah, he always does an impression of coming into Deep Space Nine and being like the monks and going to be like, "Doing like when he went from one to the other. But that's because you spoiled him at Next Generation. You guys were having a party every day.
Yeah, it was just stupid. You know, just silly, stupid stuff. Not even, you know, sophisticated wit. It was just ridiculous, over the top. And I am so easy to crack up that, you know, they just loved it. I was just peeing my uniform every other setup.
Good thing the lower half was black then.
Yeah, right.
Was anybody not with it? Was anybody like kind of like, come on, guys, seriously, I'm trying to work here.
Patrick, he really lightened up over the years. I mean, these guys have confided that to me, you know, as when I see them, because as a matter of fact, when we were pulled into that ready room and given that, you know, talking to, I don't remember this, but they remind me of this, you know, that I chimed in and said, oh, you know, Rick, we're just having fun. You know, we're just trying to make light of the hours and the tension and you know, just entertain ourselves. And Patrick turned around and said, no, we're not here to have fun. This is not about fun. You know, and he yelled at me for saying that. And then, you know, he kind of loosened up as the years went on.
You know, I remember watching, not to get too far off track.
Marina should have said, Patrick, I sense
you're angry.
Yeah.
Damn it, counselor, I know. I am angry. No, but I remember seeing
wound tight.
I remember seeing the Captain's documentary by 455 Films. Everybody go check that out if you haven't yet, not to get too far off track. But I remember a moment that really got me was when because William Shatner was directing and conducting the interviews, and he was talking to Patrick Stewart, and Patrick mentioned what you're talking about. And I remember him saying, we're not here to have fun, damn it, or whatever it was. And then he did admit that in later years, he loosened up, and then he would start screwing around and have fun. And Shatner very astutely goes, so they changed you. Because he was trying to control everybody to be, you know, more in line with, and eventually the crew changed him. And then, you know, Patrick has this realization. He's like, yeah, it was just a really powerful moment in that documentary that I had a flashback to when you mentioned that.
There you go. I'm validated here. Yeah, absolutely. It really was the case, you know. And again, Patrick's coming from a different sort of, you know, school of theater, and I don't know what, you know, although I have friends that are in the Royal Shakespeare Company, and they are very goofy. They
really? I didn't expect that.
They do stuff live on stage. I mean, they will find a way, you know, they'll be doing like Richard III, and the night they'll say, we have to insert the word chicken. You know, and they'll find a way to do, you know, they'll be doing Richard III in all their spectacular Royal Shakespeare glory, and just, you know, and say, you know, thou goest down the road with thy chicken, sir, and no one blinks an eye. You know, the audience has no idea what has just happened.
Yeah, but the fellow actors got to keep a straight face now.
Exactly. So there's a lot of humor to that.
Wow. Well, that's all great stuff. Speaking of keeping a straight face, by the way, everybody at home, in the second segment, Denise was telling us a really cool story about what she was doing before and during the auditioning process. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But we also have this episode here, which when I saw it, when it first came up, I remembered it. A lot of times I just have these vague familiarities of, oh, you know, like the one with the snakes and the dogs. I remember that. Or the one where the Ferengi are doing this. You know, just these tiny little recollections of these. And this one I go, yes, the one with the old guy and basically Cirroc, I thought of you only this time watching it through, because I was like, this is a Fountain of Youth kind of story, right? Or at least partly that. And, you know, Cirroc is always very good with knowing these old, you know, fables and historical stories. And I realized this episode wasn't my favorite. When I remember back in the day, wasn't my favorite. However, when I was watching it this time, I was like, this is a story. This is a mystery. This is it's almost like a fable or a take on a fable. And maybe they even say, let's do a Fountain of Youth story or something like that. But I don't know, Cirroc, I was wondering your take on that, if you had any thoughts on that kind of approach.
Yeah, I think that the idea was a good idea. Um, it just wasn't executed in properly for me. It was just not done right. But the idea was good because we've seen this idea in the movie, for example, Benjamin Button,
Mhm.
with Brad Pitt, where he starts the movie out really old and he reverses through the movie, right? He's opposite ages or de-ages. So that works in that context. We also saw prior to this Next Generation episode in Twilight Zone, in the episode Kick the Can. And that's when, you had all of those senior citizens. They were living in that household, and they said, let's go outside and play the game of Kick the Can. And one of them didn't want to play. The one who went to those of them that did play the game became youthful again, and
Interesting.
reverted back to childhood. So
reminds me of Cocoon.
that actually, Cocoon also is another example of this kind of storyline. So it's a good story. It could be done well. The problem for me was the extra backstory they tried to attach to it. Could have been a great story about a man who found this cure and he's going through this process. He's having this bout with his loved one, who I thought that was a good story that they could have dug out more. There was things there. He showed some selfishness by taking the other, her dosage of it. There could have been a lot more play there as far as interaction. I like the idea of it. I just think it was poorly executed with the attaching it to the storyline of these hostages and attaching it to some peace deal that he negotiated and that he feels bad about. All of that stuff, I didn't really need those kinds of things. It could have been that he's going back and he wants to redo something in life, but not necessarily this peace deal and hostage scenario situation, which I felt was very cheesy and kind of. I was like, why does this matter? Like how many hostage situations are going on in this galaxy right now, and why does this one exactly matter?
Yeah, screw the hostages.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, the concept of this this machismo kind of thing going on, where he's got to get back to this virile male energy, to be able to confront this situation, because he's going to take him physically. Is it just like, I mean, it's so weird, this story, that first of all, he did this to begin with and then confesses it to Picard. Like, I was wondering, what is Picard going to do now with this information? I mean, this is so illegal.
Yeah.
What he's done.
Yeah.
And he's an admiral. I mean, at the very least, you can kind of justify, well, yes, but there's hostages at stake still. So I've got to sort of put that on hold for a moment. But like, there was no, and then of course he dies, so there's no getting back to that. But it's like, that's really intense, what he's just admitted to. We haven't come across a Starfleet officer yet who has really violated everything that
he falsified the records.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it just, the whole thing was hard to kind of track in any like empathetic way for me, and feel who am I siding with here? They're awful and he's awful, and what are you guys doing with this information? And there is an interesting kind of notion, and again, in the 80s, this stuff, there's always been this chasing of something to make us young and beautiful again? What lengths will people go to? We see it. It never leaves us. There's a whole thing I was listening to yesterday on NPR about everybody's taking this Ozempic, this diabetes drug to lose weight. It's like this miraculous weight loss drug. But the people who have diabetes, who actually need this to live, can't get it.
Because it's flying off the shelves.
All the Beverly Hills,
come on,
beauty queens are stockpiling Ozempic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shot a week, and what lengths we'll go to, to have this youth, this beauty, this flawlessness.
Well, we can't all stay young and beautiful like you did, Denise. So go easy on us. We all have to figure out our own ways to make it happen. Me,
I'll give you that 20 later.
And shit. That 20. Yeah. Well, the other part of that was that when the admiral's confiding in Picard that he sold arms to both sides, my first thought was how very Ferengi of him. The Ferengi would be so proud. I feel like they've even done that a Deep Space Nine episode where Quark just like, that's his strategy. He's like, well, you sell the arms to this side and you sell the arms to this side. Now, of course, the Ferengi are supposed to tell us exactly what not to do if you are the Federation. So I think what we have is just like an old, desperate man who really, he wants to right all the bad that he's done and is completely selfishly willing to do whatever it takes to do it because he's like, I'm on my way out anyway. So what do I care? And he's even screwing over his own wife in the process, not talking with her, not just bad decisions all around, it seems like, with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a problem with it because, he just now decides to take this particular elixir thing that he had. I guess he had gotten it a long time ago. The timeline of it didn't make sense for me that he just now takes this thing exactly when he gets on the ship. I didn't see it make sense. The other thing that bothered me was, it was a 45 years since he negotiated the treaty deal. He tells Picard, the official record says one thing, but he did something illegal. Then he falsified the records. He's admitting guilt and admitting a crime to another Starfleet officer, which would, to me, instantly make you invalid as far as rank and giving orders. As soon as you reveal that to Picard, I would say that I no longer can take orders from you, nor will I allow you to give orders.
Yeah, you're not in charge of this mission anymore, bro.
Yeah.
You should be in the brink.
You should be in the brink.
Be held now.
Right. We're going to hold you until you have to face your court-martial.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the normal code of conduct of somebody reveals something, that level of criminality. Now, given the circumstance, like you said, he's hostage negotiation and all of this stuff that was really hard for me to follow as well. Why it mattered so much. I just didn't. It really felt cheesy for me in the moment when they finally had that final matchup with Karnas and Jameson, and the way it played out, it felt like a school play, in my opinion. It felt like me watching my high school play, and a bunch of us came up with this kind of cool little scene. But that's how well thought out.
You can write better than that, Cirroc.
Yeah,
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, I just wasn't feeling it, and I would have actually, if they went with this story and they were going to continue with this story, I would have preferred that Jameson continue to de-age until he's actually an infant. And I would have liked to have seen Picard hand over an infant Jameson.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's a really good point, because then at this point, can you really put a toddler or a baby in the bridge? That would be a really good moral play right there.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
So now are you going to hold this baby? Are you going to be
he's just a widow baby. And Troy would have Picard's ass if he handed him over. She'd be like, "No, you don't. I sense no anger in this baby."
Right.
But it would have made the point that, that they're trying to make about, one, you can't undo what you've done already. Two, getting revenge. Will it satisfy you if you have that revenge on this baby? Would you still feel the same satisfaction in your revenge?
That's so
and
good.
that would play out better for me in this storyline. It would have been like the Solomon fable, the biblical Solomon fable, where there's two mothers who come forward to King Solomon and say they are both the mother. And he has to decide which one is the mother. And so he says, okay, I will split the baby in two and give each of you half.
Great deal.
Now, one of the women says, fine, do that and give me my half. And the other woman says, no, don't do that. Just give her the baby. Wow. Now, what did you think Solomon decides who the real mother is?
That's the real mom. Yeah.
That's the real mom who won't split the baby. Yeah.
Right.
Because no mother would split their baby.
Right. And so to me, if you use that kind of a parable in this situation, then you could have had a better story to tell about, exacting revenge. And does it matter? Does it have the same gravity if it's done on a baby version of that same person?
Right.
Seems like a common theme with these first season episodes is that a lot of them crack open a really interesting moral play or a really interesting thing, and then just don't quite stick the landing, or they open up this moral situation but then jump over to another one, or you know what I mean? Like they're still trying to get their footing on how to really knock that one out of the park, and they open up all these thoughts for us, and then we're left kind of going like, I wish they would have just, that's a really good idea.
Absolutely. And they're still having these sort of morality tales, these plays, but they attach on to the alien adventure ship, the gung-ho, gotta save the day. So they're not organically merging, but they don't trust that the morality play can be enough without the action adventure, glommed on, because this is what it's about. We want to get to some action here.
That's a great point. Well, let's hit up our break. That's a really good point. They got to force in that sci-fi somehow, and it's just not the seamless merging that we're used to or hoping to have. So we're going to take a super quick break, everybody. Also, there's an actor in this episode that has been in another series of Star Trek. We'll tell you about that on the other side as well. And it's not Patrick Stewart or an idiot we know. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule.